If you've ever wanted to attend a Smash Mouth concert in a Spirit Halloween store, then you're gonna love this.
Nobody's wanted to do that. It's called Demon Squad. Flush them the movie!
This time we watch Season 13, Episode 6, Demon Squad.
The finest film made in Mobile, Alabama in 2019 that I know of.
But first, some follow-up.
Yes, so we got a couple of notes on our previous episode about Agent from Harm, and let's go over them real quick. First off, in our friendly Slack, devoted listener Ella points out a little mistake we made in the Shallow 13. She says, "Hey Charlotte, I was listening to the most recent episode, Agent from Harm. Quick correction, the pork arena was Joel's invention, not the Mads." How could you get that wrong, Charlotte?
I know, I can't believe it. I have to say, I really appreciated that further on inside of the Slack. I think it was you posted a picture of Joel playing the pork arena. And it's definitely one of those things which is like, how was that not blazed into my mind? But there it is.
Well, more importantly, it should have been blazed into my mind because I wrote that for you to say. And as soon as Ella said it, I was like, yeah, no, it absolutely is. I can picture that. Whoops.
No, totally. Dr. Forrester is not going to, molest a pig to make funny noises. That's totally a Joel thing. Joel and the bots.
Frank could totally do that.
You're right. That would be an excellent TV's Frank moment.
Well, carrying on from that episode, a devoted listener, Marty, wrote in to say, I have always disliked the endless Prince riffs in this episode.
Aww.
Which, of course, you and I both really enjoyed. He says it's indicative of a lack of jokes. It's something that happens in Season 8 especially, where they beat a joke into the ground. I think it's part of the poor film selection of the era, and the burnout from the riffers. This culminates with Space Mutiny, my least favorite episode, as it features one lazy joke repeated for virtually the entire episode. Now, I will say, Space Mutiny, fan favorite. That particular repeated joke, absolute fan favorite. But, he's got a point. He's got a point.
Yeah.
I know where he's coming from, and I don't know why I enjoyed the Prince riffs in this episode.
I think I enjoyed the Prince riffs inside of the episode because, I enjoy Prince's music, and every time they brought up one of his songs, I had a little piece of Prince's music going on in my head that, bubbled for me in a really fabulous way, right? It was just like, oh, I love that song. Oh, I love that song. It's the nostalgia of remembering how much I enjoy Prince's music. I mean, he certainly has a point that it is the same joke over and over again, and it's all based on how one character looks. So, he's got a point, but I have to say, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's exactly why I enjoyed it as well. It was a pretty sweet little joke, and it was a nice little reminder of Prince, and I don't know, the voice is kind of delightful and tickling, and it was fine with me. But I totally agree that happens a lot, especially in Season 8, and usually I don't care for it so much. Oh well.
Yeah, certainly if the artist that they had chosen was Nickelback or something, maybe I wouldn't have felt so positively about the whole thing. I don't know.
I don't know if Nickelback put out that, I guess they did put out that many songs. Oh dear.
Well, they don't have a catalog as rich and varied as Prince, but they certainly have quite a few songs that have made it into our hit parade.
Not my hit parade.
Sure.
Anyway, elsewhere on the MST3K forums, the official ones, Clang Pot Roast was nice to shout us out. That's their username. I don't know. It's the old school web. It's a forum. People have fun names.
And pot roast is yummy.
Sure. Anyway, they shout us out and they say, I've been sitting on this painful news for a while, but I can no longer keep the truth from you, my dearest fandom friends. Bobo was mistaken. There are pie crusts made with not just warm, but hot water. I first saw this in one of the 1950s magazines or guides in my collection, which I haven't yet scanned and posted, but there are modern versions online. So this concept still has its proponents even today. If you search the phrase water whip method of making pie crust, you can see for yourself.
Oh my gosh, Chris, now that he mentions this, I'm like, I've watched the Great British Bake Off. Don't they make hot pastry crust? But generally it's for like the savory meat pies of the Victorian era and stuff, right? When they're making those big things filled with game and all of that other stuff.
Somebody else in that thread did bring up the British Bake Off, so yeah, maybe. Although I don't know what Clang Pot Roast's pronouns are, but there you go.
There you go.
I, of course, responded that this was heresy. And that a pie crust made with hot water is nothing but a cookie with notions. I apologize to everyone for that. Yeah, no, hot water pie crusts are totally a thing. And that's a good point. But maybe not for the types of... I don't know. I still stand with Bobo.
And I've never made a pie with the hot water crust. I'm just, from the Great British Bake Off, what I am remembering is that those were mainly the meaty, savory pies. But most of what Bobo was talking about were fruit type pies. So I don't know.
If you're making a savory pie, you also want to increase your salt.
It's true. And really, the whole point was to make him break down and admit that he was lying, right? And it worked. So regardless of whether hot water pastry crust exists or not, the point was to make the witness break down and admit that they were lying, and it worked as far as that goes. Bobo may be wrong, but it was still a totally good tactic.
All right, we should just talk about Demon Squad.
All right, we can talk about Demon Squad.
This time we watch Season 13, Episode 6, Demon Squad. Introducing Nick Moon, P.I. And by P.I., the movie means paranormal investigator, because while Nick Moon does have a private business investigating things, he specializes in the demonic. And thank goodness someone does, because it turns out that Mobile, Alabama is crawling with dozens of different species of demon. So many demons that they even have their own bar to hang out in. But not enough for most people to realize that the demons are out there, including, it would seem, Nick Moon's latest client, Lila Fontaine. Lila Fontaine's wealthy archaeologist father is missing, but unlike Wanda Sack Newsom from Alien from L.A., Lila is apparently not all that concerned about her dad. In fact, she has a bit of a chip on her shoulder about him, since he was largely absent as a father, except when he dragged her around the world as a little kid to archaeological digs. And after all, if there's one thing little kids hate, it's digging. Anyway, no, Lila isn't worried about her dad. She's worried about a ceremonial dagger that was stolen from her dad. Well, the dagger, it turns out, is kinda special. If you find the matching battery, it is super duper powerful. Our big baddie, the Stranger, is seeking out both the dagger and its battery in order to create some kind of Frankendemon, powerful enough to take over the world. And surely the Frankendemon would share this power with the Stranger, right? Well, the Stranger also has some goons called Stitchers. Their lips are stitched together, you see. And the Stitchers can turn into green smoke and scoot around scenic downtown Mobile doing their evil duties. Oh, and the Stranger's also got sort of a freelance demon who may be vampiric. He's called Skeeter, and at some point Nick Moon tortures him for information, because that's a thing heroes do. Oh, and it turns out that the Stranger kidnapped Lila's father, and then got Lila to hire Nick Moon so that Nick would find the battery, and that would save the Stranger some time, I guess. I don't know. Oh, and also, Nick and the Stranger knew each other from something that happened long ago, when Nick was maybe a little more evil? We don't really get many details there, but it's all pretty good setup for when the Nick Moon origin story gets greenlit. Where was I? Oh, I forgot to mention Nick Moon's, secretary? Daisy. Daisy wants to be part of the team real bad. She wants to go out and do real investigative work. And so, Nick lets her. Problem solved. Daisy has this special power. Her eyes go all white when something's a little off with somebody. Oh, also, Nick and Lila hook up. Nick is into Lila because she's hot and rich and single, and Lila is into Nick because... hang on, I'm pretty sure the movie's going to give us a reason for this any minute now. No? No. Okay. Anyway, there's lots of little twists and turns throughout the movie, but it all ends in a warehouse or something with the Franken monster coming to life and immediately destroying the stranger and the Stitchers. Whoops. And then Lila ends up sacrificing herself to wreck the Franken demon, and her body ends up getting trapped on the other side of an interdimensional portal or something. And then Nick Moon gets real sad and real drunk about what happened to Lila, but then someone talks him out of it, and he makes Daisy a full-time partner. And at least for now, that's the end.
Meanwhile, on A Satellite of Love, white guy roll call. Ooh, it's Joel. It's Joel. After a 30-ish year hiatus as test subject, Joel is back. This feels like when everyone watched the MST3K movie, and when Joel's name came up as a creator, everyone cheered and laughed and cried and remembered the good times. While we may be super excited, Joel is ever his mellow self. Kinga introduces herself as the child of Dr. Forrester and welcomes Joel back to the experiment. Bots are borrowed from Emily on the Simulator of Love, and Joel fixes drinks because why not have an Arnold Palmer and impress your customers? Invention exchange time. Joel calls out the Mads for presenting an invention that is an old comedy bit, the electric lasso. He offers up a twist on the mood ring, the mood globe, specifically for Tom Servo. Yellow means happy, but purple means he's searching for validation. Aren't we all, Tom? Aren't we all? Max likens the movie to a Smash Mouth concert in a Spirit Halloween store, and we are ushered into the movie with the old door sequence. Oh, Joel, how you do tug at the heartstrings. First break comes, and we find ourselves in Fears, the demon puppet bar where everyone knows your name. Also, best rebranding of Cheers ever. The update to the cartoon opening song that they put together? Brilliant! This is where all my demon friends go to hang out. Joel is Sam, GPC is Diane. Yes, that's Diane. Tom is there as Norm, and there's a dragon puppet too, which is apparently the link into Cheers. I don't remember a puppet on Cheers, but I'm sure it would have improved the show. I mean, puppet comedy? It's like Alf! At intermission, Joel is seen rebooting Tom's voice, and it's the original Tom voice. I love Tom's old voice. Outside the SOL, they have a visitor, Pearl Forrester. Does Joel remember Dr. Forrester ever mentioning her? Or Kinga? Ever? Huh? Proving once again that it's hard to be the mom of an evil genius, especially if one is also an evil genius. P.S. I find it a little weird that Pearl is so clingy about this. It totally doesn't fit with her character from when she and Dr. F shared space in Deep 13. Anyway, next break is back to the Satellite of Love, and we are treated to Demon-prov, the best form of improv ever. Anything can happen. Though Kinga and Max say a totally ad-libbed show, they'll never pull it off. Au contraire, my friends, anything can happen. Subscribe to their Patreon for more content. Movie's over, and it's time to send the bots back to Emily. The Forrester Midwestern mom duo pick the bots up and carry them back, don't you know? But oh geez, she is just gonna spoil those bots. Not to be outdone by Joel's crew, the Mads have now made Mad-prov. When I think of anything can happen with Demon-prov, somehow that's less threatening than Mad-prov, even though, you know, demon. But anything can happen? And Kinga's involved? You could end up watching a movie that's like going to a New Kids on the Block concert in a party city. Now that's scary. What do you think, sirs?
So we're doing What Do You Think, Sirs now?
Sure. I thought we should have something different for this since it's not really the end. It's just, moving on to another episode.
Sure. Why not? All right, let's see what people think. Write in if you have a hot take on that. Welcome back, Joel.
Welcome back, Joel. Heartstring, tug, tug, tug.
I mean, he's been here the whole time, secretly, as the guy who says movie in the hole, but not, riffing the movies and hanging out with the bots, which is where he belongs.
It's totally true. I really enjoyed seeing him back, and I enjoyed seeing the original door sequence. I enjoyed seeing him interacting with the bots and just being that just chill presence on the satellite of love that we're so used to from the early years.
Yeah, he slid right back in. His chemistry with Emily's bots was spot on right from the beginning. It was just delightful. It was just perfectly sweet.
I agree. I mean, are we really going to be the people that have criticisms for Joel coming back on the show?
I mean,
we are not those people.
I mean, if it was terrible, I might have, but
sure.
But no, this was very good. I think he's found a good way to do it. I hope he's having a good time. It seems like he is.
It certainly seemed like it from a viewer's perspective, and it seemed like the bots were enjoying. I have to say that one of the things that I really enjoyed while they were inside of the movie theater is that Tom and Crow ended up at multiple points in the film doing riffs that were just like a cascade of riffs over the same thing when there was a big open space in the movie. Like when Nick Moon was meeting with one of his informants and he had 3 questions. He could only ask him 3 questions, and he finally got to the third questions, and one of them said ask for more questions, and another one said phone a friend, and the other one said poll the audience, and just that fun time where all of them are riffing together over the same thing. It was just delightful to see all of them working together like that.
Yeah, this was one of the innovations, I think, that they did during the Netflix era, where Jonah and the bots would have some of these rapid fire things. And it was really, in my opinion, the only thing that really worked with the rapid fire jokes in those seasons was when they would do this kind of piling on of different variations of jokes one after the other like that. And it was good. Maybe it's true that with the Joel stuff, with the more chill pace of season 13 episodes, that it comes off as a little bit more friendly and warm and with a bit more space to breathe. But either way, it's real good. It's a real good new sort of riffing thing. I'm not saying they never did that in the old days, but it's much more of a thing they do now, if you see what I mean.
Totally. Well, and I wonder if the movie also just kind of gave them the space to make that happen as well, just with these nice long pauses for dramatic effect. And rather than dramatic effect, our companions in the theater are filling that time with some jokey fun stuff.
Oh man, having watched the episode twice and having watched it unriffed once, there's definitely some long pauses in there, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Yes.
In addition to the loveliness of having Joel back, it was really nice to have Josh back. He had shown up as Dr. Earhart in some of the Netflix shows, but now he's back, bringing Joel back through the time hole, whatever they call it. I forget.
Yeah.
And also taking over the voice of Tom, as he did in the very early days. And there were some really cute meta jokes about the old days, including the, white guy roll call bit, poking fun at the show. But also, Joel makes fun of Dr. Earhart's old voice from back when he was a 17-year-old and had the high-pitched squeaky thing. And,
yes.
Josh breaks out into that voice for a half second, and it's very funny. But I have to say, I don't know why I sort of forgot this. Josh in the theater is amazing and better than he was in season 1, let's say. But, on par with how good he was during Cinematic Titanic and so forth. He's really sharp, and he makes a few of those jokes significantly funnier than they had any right to be. And they were pretty good jokes, but he still knocked them out of the park with his delivery. It was just the perfect combo of warm and dry and biting and friendly.
I agree. And it's certainly the case. He has amazing chemistry with Joel, right? There's clearly history there with the two of them working together. And I didn't feel like Crow was left out in any sort of a way, which, generally when you have a trio and you have two people who have known each other for a really long time, there's generally a third person who gets a little left out, right? I didn't have that feeling at all.
No.
So they made space for it to really still be a trio rather than just a duo with a friend.
Yeah, no, it absolutely felt like Kelsey and Connor both could handle themselves in that arena, but also, the space was made for them to be able to do that so that it wouldn't just be the Joel and Josh show. Hey, the people who made the movie have been really active in the MST3K forums.
That's really cool. I can't imagine that. Just like not every song that Weird Al does is happy to be chosen. I can imagine there's some movies that may not be completely happy to be misted, but I'm really glad that they're okay with with having their movie riffed. Because you have to be aware that at some point in time, like this movie, that they've been very clear, like this was kind of a passion project for them, right? And to be misted sometimes means that you're going to be mocked. You're going to be mocked, right? You have to be open for that. And it's kind of beautiful that they're really happy to be seen again, really happy to be in this forum, and like happy to take whatever licks are going to come inside of this treatment.
Yes. Well, they're understanding it as a big honor. They're sort of not, it seems, under tremendous illusions about what they've made. And also, it seems like the fandom has been very warm to them. And I feel like the riffing doesn't get excessively mean.
No.
And maybe it's because they knew that the makers would be watching it and they're not flaming assholes. Similarly, there's a reasonably good chance that they're going to be listening to this episode. So hello, if you're listening.
Hello.
This is awkward, but welcome. Stick around if you like.
Be sure and point out everything we did wrong. We're happy to take it.
Yeah. If you write in, we'll read your letter next time. And, we're going to have some nice things and some less nice things to say, I think. But,
probably.
Don't overall, keep being you. Before we go on too much further, though, I need to clarify. Weird Al always asks beforehand if he can do the parody, but he does get turned down sometimes. So
yes, point noted. Absolutely. But it is also the case, he might ask, but you don't necessarily know how he's going to change the lyrics, right? Now, I don't know how the sequence works, but I am very glad that Weird Al gets the permission of artists. And I wonder how much of a conversation was had with Demon Squad before they were officially started to be riffed. Do you think any of the movies, they have no opportunity to say no?
Oh, I don't know whether they would have had an opportunity to say no. So MST3K or Shout Factory or whoever bought the rights to them riffing it. So
which means that somebody somewhere had the right to say, no, we're not willing to sell that to you. And I don't know if the people who are inside of the forums are the people who still own the rights and were able to say yes, or they were just pleasantly surprised to see their movie brought up inside of another forum. And I have to admit, I never would have seen Demon Squad if MST3K hadn't picked it up. And I'm not sad that I did see it misted.
Yeah. My understanding is that they found out the same time we all found out.
Oh.
And they were completely surprised. And I believe they didn't hear anything about what was going on. They didn't get a sneak preview or something. I could be wrong. Or if they have, they kept it under a good NDA. But that's my sense of it.
My goodness. To hear the riffs live over your own work with everyone else.
Yeah.
That could be rough. It's hard to put yourself out there when you have a passion project and you really work hard to get something like that made. I understand that this wasn't made with a huge budget and it was something that they really worked hard to create and to get out there. And that could be really hard to just have it out there and have people respond to it in any fashion. So, good for them for being so positive with it.
Sure. As we'll mention in a little bit, I think, this wasn't their first film. They've been making films for 10 years, basically. So they've, gone through a bit of criticism, but this is almost certainly the biggest audience they've ever had. And, they seem pretty happy with how it has all turned out. So I want to say, first off, the thing you're saying that, like, this is a kind of passion project. This is a group of people who are, making something together in a place that isn't necessarily known for its film scene in Mobile, Alabama, which I know next to nothing about, but it isn't known as being a cultural hotspot in that sense. And yet people are getting together and, making films and amusing themselves, their friends, and whoever else wants to come along for the ride. And that's great. I mean, that's sort of, you can see a bit of MST3K in that as well, right? Like this little, in its origins as this like little group of people who came together in a small town outside of Minneapolis to do all this. And a lot of the filmmakers that we have appreciated on the show have similar stories. Ed Wood and Coleman Francis, and even some of the like lesser lights that we've looked at have all had this similar thing. So that side of things I'm all for. And Demon Squad is in no way the kind of film I would ever watch on my own.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I don't know about you. I don't know how many sort of film noir horror mashups you watch.
Well, I mean, you know that I'm a huge fan of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which does some of this, and certainly, demon movies are always a lot of fun. I have to say, maybe this is Amazon selling it poorly, but the picture that they have for Demon Squad has a really big devil with huge wings and the big horns like Tim Curry in the movie Legend. And I was waiting for that demon like the whole time. So
You're right. I didn't even notice that. The demon on the poster is not in the film.
Demon on the poster is not in the film. And the one that they create is scary enough that it absolutely could have been on the film. I think the movie Constantine might have ripped off that look for some of the lesser demons in hell that it uses. I mean, I don't know. Certainly that came from a comic book too, so who knows what came first. Maybe the Constantine comic book came first, but wow, that open head with the noggin brain and the big sniffer, whew, that was a creepy looking demon.
Yeah, that open head demon thing, that piece of makeup has been in another film already, and I've forgotten which one. Oh, somebody pointed it out, but it has been in another film. The costuming looks pretty good in this film, but it also looks like it's generally off the shelf, which is fine. Like, it's what they could do with their budget. But I also feel like they saw the stitched together lips makeup and put that in the movie rather than thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if their lips were stitched together? Here's a good plot reason why that would be the case. Therefore, blah, blah, blah. Right? Like, there's no reason for that in the movie. So, but they found the cool prop. So they're going to have the hench people look like that. And fine. I don't want to harp on this too much. They made the choices they could. But
sure. But I think that they made I think if we're thinking about creating a movie that has a demon underworld and has a highly varied demon underworld on a budget, they did a really good job. Do you recognize the henchmen every time you see them and know they're connected to the stranger? Well, once you get introduced to the stranger, you do, right? And that really takes like an hour into the movie before you see the stranger and know that these are their henchmen. Until then, it's just like, green smoke following everybody everywhere, and you don't really know why. But at the same time, like, you have a distinctive look for the grouping of demons that are the quote unquote enemy. You have demons that are not the enemy, that are just hanging out and living in Mobile, Alabama. So, I appreciate that they didn't like shoot all of their money at one costume, as we have seen in so many movies, right? Like, we're going to make one great costume and then, maybe make a whole bunch of headdresses and call it the Attack of the Eye Creatures. I don't know.
Yeah. It's just I can't imagine where the Attack of the Eye Creatures got those costumes. And that's what I love about it.
Fair enough, Chris. Fair enough.
Anyway, what I really want to talk about is the film noir aspect of this movie. And, its main protagonist, Nick Moon, hard-boiled detective type.
Sure, yes. He's got Sam Spade written all over him, right?
Yeah. How did that work out for you?
The whole point of Sam Spade is that he's not really a likable character, right? Are you supposed to like anyone in a film noir? I'm not sure, but you're not supposed to like Sam Spade. He's supposed to be like hard edged and, doesn't he say it himself? He's not the making friends type. He's the hanging out in puppets, hanging out in bars with puppets type. Okay, no, it's true. He's the one who says that he's not the making friends type. It's Tom that says he's the type that hangs out in bars with puppets. So, okay, fair enough.
Sure. And from what I remember of the Maltese Falcon, which is sort of the film noir movie, that I don't remember liking anyone in that movie very much. It's been a few years since I saw it. I meant to try to rewatch it before this, but I didn't have time to. But I remember walking away from it not especially liking them, although I do really remember liking, maybe not so much the movie, but the character in Raymond Chandler's book, The Big Sleep. He's not a likable guy, but he's incredibly enjoyable to spend time with. It's a very well written book, and he's a very compelling person to share a mind space with, even if you wouldn't really want to be his friend.
Fair enough. Well, I have to admit that I wouldn't want to be Nick Moon's friend. I don't really want to hire him to investigate my paranormalness. I don't really want to work for him. He doesn't seem like a very nice boss.
No,
which is fine. They didn't create a likable character, right? Like they weren't. Certainly, if they're going for that film noir trope, they nailed it. Like, you don't like him. He's drunk. He objectifies women. He doesn't have a whole lot of positive qualities other than somehow he solves everything in the end, which is his job as a detective.
He's also sad about his daughter.
Yes. So we have this backstory that is only sort of hinted at. Sure. And now he's got more backstory for the future movie, where he's got the girlfriend on the other side of the interdimensional portal, like we all do,
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I wish it felt like the film noir tropes that they played with, that they'd done a better job of sort of updating them for 2019 when the film was made. I couldn't tell whether Nick Moon was an unpleasant misogynist because that's what the character needs to be, or because they were trying to play out what is a 2019 version of that kind of misogyny look like? Or, I don't know, I just wish they thought a little bit harder about that. They could have done some interesting things, like they did with what is frankly the most pleasant character in the movie, Daisy, the secretary / wannabe investigator. She is not part of the formula, or she's such a radical departure from the sidekick, because she is very, I don't know. She looks like Janet from The Good Place in a good way.
She's a jaded barista, but she knows everything about the universe.
Yeah, exactly. And she's got her little powers and so forth. But I don't know. There's just something much more modern about her. There's something much more contemporary. And I wish that Nick Moon and Lila Fontaine and several of the other characters had been updated. Couldn't they have given Lila Fontaine a reason to like Nick Moon? That's more than just a hire. I don't know.
Sure. Although, that's a matter of not creating something about Nick Moon other than this daughter in a photograph, right? What does he have going for? He looks good in a suit.
Does he?
Sure. He looks better in a suit than he does in that hat. Oh, maybe. Chris, come on.
I don't know. He's very sweaty either way.
Sure, but it's Alabama and it's hot there and humid.
All right, I would also be exceptionally sweaty if I were there too.
It's true. And to be fair, the office assistant is walking around in a flannel the whole movie, and she doesn't look quite as sweaty as he does.
No.
So I kind of wish I knew what her power did. Her eyes turn white, but it pretty much seems to happen whenever she touches anybody. So I don't know, is she reading their whole backstory? Is she determining whether they're a demon and have powers or not? Is she just touching their aura? What is the power that she's doing? Clearly there's something happening and she knows something new every time she touches somebody, but she never takes Nick aside and says, all right, the information that I got from just touching that guy is this, or I just touched Lila and my eyes went white and here's why.
Exactly. Well, it is because she's just so to speak, getting a bad feeling about them.
Yeah, but she gets a bad feeling about everybody. Like, there's no one that her eyes don't go white for.
I know. Well, but she's right. Like, you can track everybody that she gets the white eyes for is up to no good.
Sure, but is there anybody in that version of Mobile, Alabama that's not up to no good? Was Jeeves up to no good? I'd have to protest this, actually, Chris. Jeeves, what was he up to? He was just a faithful butler, right? Or whatever. He never, what did he do?
I don't remember.
He knew that they were hiring Nick Moon with, I don't know, like nefarious purposes. So I guess he knew that the stranger put Lila up to it. But like, did he really have something negative to make her eyes go white? I don't know. I mean, she turns to Lila, right, and says, "Do you trust that guy?" And it's like, okay, is this going to go somewhere?
Well, this is also a problem with the movie. It has a ton of narrative threads, and not all of them lead to each other.
But I don't know. It's an interesting power to give somebody, to have them read something about people in the room just by touching them. Mm-hmm. But I just kind of wish that they developed that more and went further with it. I wish I had some understanding of why Nick Moon had some powers. Like, is he part demon? Does his backstory involve something like that? Because he lights fire in his hands like Hellboy, and he has like a magic glove like Thanos, but like, where do those powers come from? That would have been the backstory I think I would have been more interested in having some hints at. Like, the daughter thing was good. I enjoyed having that little bit of backstory, but I would have liked to have known, like, where does his power come from? Like, what purpose does he think he's serving? You know, those sorts of things.
I do like that they didn't try to explain everyone's backstory that much and just hinted at a few things. Like, there's a lot of desire for everything to be explained, and I don't think movies necessarily need to do that.
That's fair.
But you're right that there's just a lot of details that don't get fully explained, and it's frustrating.
Well, it would be helpful to know for, like, our intrepid hero who we're supposed to be rooting for, even if we don't like him because he's a film noir detective and he's going to have lots of flaws, right? Tons and tons of flaws. The reason why you still follow those detectives is because, you know, you believe that they're fighting the good fight, or they're heading in the right direction, or they're trying to make a difference, or there's something from the past that they're atoning for, or something like that, right? And generally that's part of the story that comes up.
Yep.
So that you understand their motivation for doing the work that they're doing, even when they're, you know, barely getting paid. It keeps them from having human relationships and family relationships. You know, there's sacrifices that are being made, and we see all the sacrifices and we see all the hardship, but I think it's important for a main character like that to have that reason for the sacrifices fleshed out.
Exactly. And I think the movie leans a lot on the fact that it's a film noir movie to help you sort of use the tradition to fill in a lot of that backstory. And it could have been a lot more if they'd actually been upfront about some of that.
Hey everybody, it's time for the Shallow 13.
It's time for the Shallow 13. 13 spare demon parts gathered about today's experiment, Demon Squad. Go, Charlotte, go!
Demon Squad was co-written by director Thomas Smith and by Erin Lilly, who plays Daisy. The two have worked together on a number of films and shorts together, such as The Night Shift, Night of the Krampus, and 2020's Backwoods. So, you know, if Demon Squad really wetted your whistle, there's a lot more to explore.
Crow's new favorite drink, the Arnold Palmer, is half iced tea, half lemonade. Now that's unsweetened iced tea for our southern listeners, and non-alcoholic lemonade for our UK listeners. The drink was named after the golfer Arnold Palmer, who used to order it a lot. His first wife, Winnie Palmer, gave her name to a variant made with sweet tea. Anyway, if you haven't tried it, I don't know, it's pretty nice.
When the Mads trot out the electric lasso for the invention exchange, Joel gives a little history lesson on the joke.
I hate to tell you guys, but I think that's an old Gallagher bit. Actually, it probably predates him by a couple of decades. I think Zany Blaney might have done it in his Magic Act. And then, of course, so many of these things originated in the bygone era of vaudeville, so frankly, we'll never really know for sure.
So first, congratulations, Joel. Your audition to be the host of It's Just a Show was a smashing success. Anyway, most of you probably know all about the watermelon-smashing prop comic Gallagher, but who's Zany Blaney?
Walter Zany Blaney was a magician's magician, in that I guess he never became as popular as David Copperfield or Doug Henning or Chris Angel, but he was still elected into the Magician's Hall of Fame. He was perhaps best known for his ladder levitation trick, which he performed on The Tonight Show in the 70s. Blaney passed away in 2020 at the age of 92.
At one point, Nick Moon decides it's appropriate to call a demon woman Blondie, and we get this exchange.
I don't want to make a scene, Blondie.
Oh, Dagwood.
Chick Young's comic strip, Blondie, debuted in 1930, and by 1933, its lead character, Blondie Boopadoop, got married to the man of her dreams, Dagwood Bumstead. Like many newlyweds, Blondie and Dagwood would soon have kids, adopt a dog, and be adapted into 28 low-budget B-movies.
Tom refers to Nick Moon's forever hat as a tactical trilby.
Good thing he's wearing his tactical trilby.
So, how can you distinguish between a trilby and a fedora? Well, the brim of a trilby is much narrower than the brim of a fedora, whereas the dent in the top of a fedora is much pinchier than the dent in the top of a trilby. Dick Tracy and Indiana Jones wear fedoras, Nick Moon wears a trilby.
As Nick Moon prepares to test for demonic fingerprints, he tells the butler,
Hit the lights.
Let the music move you. Lose yourself tonight. Selena Gomez.
Joel is quoting the chorus of Hit the Lights, a 2012 single by Selena Gomez and The Scene. For some reason, I think maybe Joel didn't write this riff. Just a guess here.
In the opening scene, when Nick holds his dagger cross thing against the blonde demon, he recites,
Whoa, that's real Latin. This guy's legit.
So is it real Latin? Well, yeah, basically. Nick says, Exorcizo te spiritus immundus. I exorcise you, foul spirit, which is grammatically close enough to correct and close enough to the Latin text of the Catholic exorcism rite.
At one point, Tom refers to Daisy as,
Here, Grunge Moneypenny, throw this away for me, will you?
Miss Moneypenny is the secretary to James Bond's boss, M. She has been played by a number of actors over the years, including being portrayed by Barbara Boucher, who you'll remember as fake niece Ava from Agent for Harm. Okay, technically she plays Moneypenny's daughter, but she's still named Moneypenny. Whatevs.
Okay, here comes the happy one. Joel notes about Nick.
He holds that gun like it's a precious Hummel figure.
Hummel figurines are these little porcelain statue knickknacks of chubby-cheeked, angel-faced children based on drawings made in the 1930s by Sister Maria Innocentia Hummel, a German nun. The kitschy art was very popular, but one person who did not like it at all was Adolf Hitler, who banned the publication of her work. The Nazis later took over control of her convent, siphoning off half the profits her work generated, and forcing Hummel to live in a small cell with inadequate food. She died of tuberculosis in 1946, aged 37. The figurines, however, became incredibly popular keepsakes for soldiers returning home to the U.S. after the war.
The stranger, our big baddie, enters the room and we get this moment.
I'm flattered you remember little me.
Sure, from Roger Rabbit.
And yeah, with his dark round glasses and his, suit, he does look a lot like Judge Doom, the big baddie that Christopher Lloyd played in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Spoiler alert, but Judge Doom is also hiding unusual eyes.
Joel and the Bot's gentle ripping of improv comedy in the Demon Prov sketch is not the first time they've gently ribbed this topic. Way back in the third season, Master Ninja 2 began with Joel and the Bots asking for improv suggestions from GPC. And that time, their improv team was called Anyone for More Fruitcake?
And finally, at the end of the movie, Nick Moon is moping about how his girlfriend is on the other side of an interdimensional portal.
But no one else is one of those.
Star-Lord, hello?
Star-Lord, aka Chris Pratt in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, whose girlfriend, Gamora, who is not Gamora, but who is green like Gamora, gets sacrificed by Thanos, who is not Manos, but who does have a hand of fate, in order to get one of his fancy Infinity Stones.
And that's time. So, I have to say, when this movie was premiering, of course, we were hanging out in the Megaphonic fan Slack, that anybody who supports us on Patreon can sign up for and hang out and chat while the movies are premiering with us. And several of us, after seeing several of the demon costumes, started saying, this looks a lot like Buffy aesthetic.
Oh, it totally does. I was thinking that almost the entire movie long. I mean, they have a bar that's run by a demon where all the demons go to hang out. That's totally where Buffy and Spike go in order to get their information when they're trying to figure out what's going on around town. The vampire has the whole bumpy forehead that's exactly like what all of the vampires inside of Buffy have. So yeah, it's definitely giving off some super, super Buffy vibes. And like a third of the way through the movie, they start talking about having to do research. That totally happens about a third of the way into every single Buffy episode. It's a Buffy episode. It's just 2 hours long. And the main character is not a perky blonde from Sunnydale. It's like a drunk noir detective from Mobile, Alabama. That could have been Buffy if she had been sent to Mobile, Alabama instead of Cleveland, Ohio, which is where she would have gone if she hadn't gone to Sunnydale. So if there had been a third option, Mobile, Alabama, Demon Squad could have been a movie about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
What if they had taken their inspiration even more from Buffy instead of from film noir? What if this had been about Daisy's story as the main vampire slayer? And then Nick Moon could have been the Xander type, and then
oh no! See, like the sidekicks though in the Scooby Gang are all like way more silly and funny than Buffy is, right? And they totally play this up in later episodes, especially when Buffy is still dating Angel, where she's all like tragic all the time, and then you have like Willow and Oz with like a much more like deep silly vibe, and then of course you have Xander with like his girlfriend who's an ex-demon. Like your sidekicks totally have to be more interesting than the original character, so I totally think Daisy still has to be the sidekick, but you gotta give her a little bit more storyline, right? Because your sidekicks being the funny ones, they can't just be there for one line or two, they totally gotta be there for the whole gig. And I just want to mention it, like Nick Moon is all like, you go do some research and tell me what's going on. That's not the way Buffy would do this. Buffy would totally be in the room doing the research with them, and then they could like quip about how funny the research is, right? Research is not a bad thing. You're like a PhD candidate, like master's student. Research is not a bad thing.
No, I do a deep dive podcast about, I had to research about the poor Hummel woman.
I know! Research is not a bad thing. Like, look at all the interesting things that you learn.
I mean, it made me very sad.
No, it's true. But honestly, like Nick Moon might have known what it was that he was gathering if he had bothered to be a part of the research himself.
Yeah.
Maybe he wouldn't have gotten fooled by all these people or played, God. It also would have been more kicky and fun, right? I mean, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer is meant to be a little bit more comedic and a little less dour. So,
I mean, film noir stuff or noir stuff in general can be very funny, right? Raymond Chandler is a very funny writer sometimes when it's appropriate for him to be. And you can do that. But I think it's harder in a sense. Like it's hard to get a good ensemble going like Buffy had. And, that was a very sharply written show and so forth. But sort of approaching that kind of humor, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like that you can miss and still land in a pretty good spot easier than you can do with the film noir stuff, where you just end up in a sort of well of bad alcoholism and misogyny.
No, it's true. And I mean, we had to wait all the way to the end of the movie for somebody to give like Nick Moon a ray of sunshine to possibly, be nice to people. But like, you don't have to wait for that long inside of a Buffy movie. Like, they live in Sunnydale. There's always rays of sunshine.
I think it's pretty sunny in Mobile too, frankly.
Well, sure. But he's not a ray of sunshine. And he doesn't have anybody around him who is either. Chris, before I ask you about a final factoid, I have to say, I feel like I ragged on the movie Demon Squad quite a lot inside of this show. And I have to say, even without the riffing, I didn't hate this movie. I rather enjoyed a lot of it. I did not hate watching this movie. And I think it's important to just lay that out there. I enjoyed a lot of what they brought into the movie. And I enjoy like the sincerity that they brought to like, the field that they were bringing in, the storyline that they were bringing in, the things that they were creating, like trying to merge a film noir and a Buffy universe where demons and humans live side by side, but it's still like a super secret thing. Like, I'm not opposed to this movie existing. I totally am for it. So I don't know. I don't want to feel like all we've done is say something negative about this movie, because while it has its issues, I did enjoy watching this episode a lot. Yes, the riffs are awesome and they really helped, but I think that it had a compelling enough storyline to work with. So I enjoyed Demon Squad overall, but I don't know if I would have wanted to watch it unmisted. I think that really helped it. So I don't know, you watched it without the misting.
Yep, I sure did. And it was a lot. It was a lot.
I feel like there's some content that they took out, right? Because they must have edited down the movie. I feel like there were some sexy things that might have happened.
Well, not sexy things, but there was a demon pimp who they meet up with, a female demon pimp who had some really good makeup and was, pretty good as an actor by the scale of this movie. And so, they go and sort of shake her down for information. And she's nicer than East Eddie, let's just say. But there is also something I wanted to throw out as a final factoid, or really there's two, and it's along the same line, because as I said, like one of the things I really appreciate about this movie is that it's being made in a town that isn't maybe known for its film scene, and they bring a lot of lovely local color to it. So two little things. One, you may remember that when Daisy's in the car before she goes and talks to the man in beige who works at the museum.
Oh, yes.
She looks at a little brochure for the Mobile Antiquities Museum.
Oh my, no, that's not ringing a bell at all.
Okay. Well, it's a very quick scene. She's in her car. She pulls out this little flyer. It says Mobile Antiquities Museum on it. And it's got a little picture of him in beige man in the corner. In fact, as far as I could tell, it's the actor's headshot. It's very much looking like a headshot.
See, look at what a great props manager they had making a thing like that. Come on, Chris.
No, it's even better because it's got this sort of, it's got this very, I don't know, I want to say 90s graphic design that is exactly the sort of thing that you expect to find in a town like Mobile. No shade necessarily meant on it, but it very much looks like that kind of flyer. But what's amazing is that the images and the text of the flyer are the images and the text of the building that they're standing outside of in that scene, which is the old City Hall of Mobile, which is now the History Museum of Mobile. And if you read the text, if you freeze on that frame and you read the text on the brochure, it is the text from the museum, the History Museum of Mobile.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
It's amazing that they scanned it and then just photoshopped in a new name on the side of it and a picture of the museum curator, the guy in beige, but it's headshot.
Why not? it. That's excellent.
So good. I love that little detail. There's another little detail which is also delightful. Inside Nick Moon's office, there's a weird poster in the background, which you may or may not have noticed. So like a wanted poster, but it's something he printed out on somebody's printer. Like it's very black and white. I think there's a few of them over the course of the office, but it says wanted. And then there's this picture of like a guy in a bowler hat with two beady eyes and no other facial features. It's an incredibly flat-looking drawing. It looks like a very childlike drawing. I didn't know this until I saw the movie and saw people talking about this, but what that depiction is the Crichton Leprechaun.
What's the Crichton Leprechaun?
Crichton is a neighborhood in Mobile, and in 2006, there was a leprechaun that was spotted in a tree in Crichton. There's a news report that is delightful to watch from the local news station, which was posted on YouTube. It became a very early viral video in 2006, and it includes the amateur sketch drawing of the leprechaun, which literally is just that image. It's so, I'm going to share it with you in the Slack, but it is so amazingly simple and delightful.
Oh my God!
Isn't that great?
That's fantastic!
I think that wanted poster is my favorite thing in the movie.
Well, why not? Like, what a fantastic little piece of local flair, because you know that everybody in Mobile, when they saw that, laughed their butts off. They were just like, that's fantastic!
Exactly.
Oh my God, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want Nick Moon investigating.
That's what drew him to Mobile in the first place.
Maybe it was. I mean, he moved there after the storms because he's a survivor, but he was also looking for that leprechaun.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, love that. Love the local aspect of it. That's delightful. If you've been affected by the issues on this show, if you want to share your favorite part of Demon Squad instead of recording a podcast with essentially an hour's worth of notes that nobody asked for and nobody needed, or if you'd like to ask us anything, get in touch with us. Our website is itsjustashow.com, and we're on Twitter at itisjustashow. We'd love to hear from you. This show is made possible by listeners like you. For as little as $1 an episode, you can help us research and record this show, and you can join us in a friendly Slack where we all hang out and live stream our reactions to new episodes. And you can listen to all our superfan bonus bits, including a segment that had to be cut from this episode about Dungeons and Dragons. Find out more at itsjustashow.com/Patreon or patreon.com/itsjustashow. And if you want to follow up on anything that was mentioned today, you'll find links in our show notes at itsjustashow.com/episode/115. Well, our time in Mobile has come to an end. This little vacation, we've got to go back home to our families, and we got to prepare for our next episode. What will we be doing next time?
Up next, we are going to be watching Season 6, Episode 14, San Francisco International, SF International Airport, where the big jet engines roar.
Okay. That's not the theme song I remember from the movie, but maybe it's been a while since I've watched it. So
frankly, I can't remember if I've ever watched this episode, but I grew up in the San Francisco airport, and
You grew up in the airport?
I did not grow up in the airport. I grew up in the San Francisco area, and frankly, I remember singing that song all the time when we went on vacation and had to fly out of the airport. I don't even know if that's something my family made up or if it exists somewhere.
Well, we'll find out for next time. Yeah, I can't believe I wouldn't have shown you this episode because of your San Francisco connection and all, but I don't have very strong memories of it. It's a disaster movie, I believe. It's sort of an airport-style movie, so we're going to be back on that kick.
So will it have Rock Hudson? Will it have Mia Farrow? Will there be lots of brown? Will it have airplanes being refueled in midair for 20 minutes of the most erotic footage seen on Mystery Science Theater 3K?
It won't be as good as that. It will have Pernell Roberts and Clu Gulager.
Ooh, I don't know what that sounds like, actually. Good? Does that sound good, Chris? Let me know. How do I feel?
Dull surprise, I think.
Dull surprise! Ding, 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 ding! Well, until next time.
Oh. Yeah, no, we can try it this way. It was a raspberry doorway.
And only the beige die young.
Take it away, Theme Squad.